Hi and hello everyone. I'm Lakshman. I'm a data science and business analytics intern at the Sparks Foundation. So today I have done a project which is task number 4 from the Sparks Foundation, and the project name is Exploratory Data Analysis on Global Terrorism. So let's look at the project. And this is the project which I have done using Google Colab. Let's have a quick go through of the project. Let's look at the first subpart of the project, which is connect the data in Drive to Colab. These two lines of codes over here, if you want to use this, you have to first of all download the data and upload it into the Google Drive. That is mandatory, and these two lines of codes helps us to connect the data in Drive to Colab. Let's move on to the second subpart of the project, which is data preparation and cleaning. So in this cell, I imported all the important libraries like NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn to carry on this project. Let's move on to the next cell. This small piece of code read underscore CSV. This reads the CSV, which is comma separated value files, into data frames. Let's move on to the next cell. This piece of code info, this function prints the information about the data frame. Let's move to the next cell. This piece of code over here, shape, this provides the number of rows and columns. We can see this is the number of rows and this is the number of columns. There are 135 columns. Let's move to the next cell. This piece of code, columns.values, this prints the array of column values. We can check it out. There will be 135 column values. Let's move on to the next cell. This piece of code, rename, this is used to rename the column values which we want it to be renamed. For example, I year is renamed as year. Let's move to the next cell. So over here, I assigned all these column values to the variable data, and when I print this, we will be using, or it will be printed, but there will be only the mentioned column values, not all the 135 column values, which means I'm going to further do the project by considering only these column values but not all the column values. So let's move to the next cell, head. This function over here prints the first 5 rows. We can check it out. There will be only first 5 rows, but there will be the mentioned column values will be there, not all the column values, all number of column values, which is 135. Let's move on to the next cell. This is null. This is null function is usually used to check if a cell has a null value. It returns true if there is null value and it returns false if there is no null value. And this sum is used to add all the values. So we can check it out over here. This year column has 0 null values, but this country column has 421 null values, and similarly others. So let's move to the next cell. This info again prints the information about the data frame, but now you can see there will be only the mentioned column values, and along with that non-null count is also printed. You can check it out. Year has no null values, which means all the values over here are non-null. But when we look at the state, it has 421 null values, and it will be having this much number of non-null values, which means when you add this number and 421, we will get this number. It is obvious. Let's move to the next cell. This describe, this function provides the description, which means like count, mean, STD, which means standard deviation, min 25%, like that, and max. So let me give you an explanation. Over here 2017 is the maximum value of the year column. So you can use this to gain some insights. So if you want to use it, you can use it. Let's move on to the next subpart of the project. Before that, let me minimize it. So this is the third subpart of the project, which is exploratory analysis and visualization. So over here I'll explain all the graphs. So this is the code I used to get this graph as an output, and the graph name is attacks over here. Okay, so let let us have an insight from this graph. So 2014, this year has the more number of attacks. It has more than 16,000 number of attacks from terrorist organizations. So let's move on to the next graph. Terrorism by region over here. By region over years. So this region, this color which indicates Middle East and North Africa, which means Middle East and North Africa have more number of attacks from terrorist organizations, which is more than 7,000, almost to 7,000. Let's move to the next graph. Top countries affected. So the reason I'm just explaining the graph because it is almost more than 5 minutes. So let's have a quick brush up of the third subpart of the project. So this graph name is top countries affected. So over here X values only the required number of column values, I mean required number of country values are described or indicated over here. So we can see Iraq has the most number of attacks when compared to all other countries. It has almost 25,000 number of attacks, and Turkey has the lowest number of attacks, which is almost to 5,000. So let's move to the next graph. Deaths due to attack. Okay, x values are the years, range of years, and y value, which is number of death. We can see 2014 has the most number of deaths, which is over and above than 40,000. 40,000 people died due to attacks. So let's check it out. We can already see 2014 has the most number of attacks, and also 2014 has the more number of deaths. So it is obvious, we gained an insight that year which has more number of attacks also has more number of death count. So let's move to the next graph. 10 most affected cities. So the data missed, so it is displayed unknown. So let's move to the next graph. We can also gain some insights over here. Istanbul is the city with a less number of attacks. So we can gain some insights over here. So let's move to the next graph. Count of people killed. So X value is the attack type, Y value is the death count. So attack type over here are armed assault, assassination, bombing and explosion, hijacking, and many more. So which type of attack has the more death count? It is both armed assault and bombing. So both have almost same death count, which is 1,60,000 people died due to these two types of attacks. So it is so bad. So we also gained some insights using this graph. Let's move to the next graph. Count of people escaped with injury. So the x values are all the attack types, and the y values are injury count. So injury count, which indicates all the people which are escaped but got severely injured. Those people who are not dead but got severely injured. So again, bombing, it is so obvious. Bombing will create the major impact on injury. So it is obvious that bombing created more injury count on people. I mean, on people data. So let's move to the next cell. I mean, literally next graph. So this graph, top 10 terrorist groups: Taliban, ISIL, Shining Path, and many more. So the attack numbers. Taliban is the terrorist organization which has more than 7,000 attacks, and this PKK is the organization with the least number of attacks. Let's move to the next graph. Top 10 organizations with most kills. So the X values are organization name, and the Y values are number of people got killed. So ISIL, this organization has most number of people killed. So the killed people count, which is more than 35,000. I mean 35,000 people got killed because of this organization. So this is also a good insight which we have get from this graph. Let's move to the next cell. So there are no next cell. Let me minimize it. So finally, all the summary and conclusions. These are the insights which we have obtained from this EDA project. We can also gain more number of insights if we want to. This is the insights we have quickly obtained from this EDA project in short period of time. So 2014 has the more number of attacks over the count of 16,000. Middle East and North Africa with more attacks after 2010. I mean the year. Iraq is the most affected country with nearly 25,000 attacks. 2014 has most number of deaths over 40,000. Bombing and armed assault made almost same death count of 1,60,000. Okay, same death count of 1,60,000 means 1,60,000 people got killed because of bombing and armed assault. Bombing made huge survived casualties over 3,50,000. We have seen it. Taliban is the most notorious organization with more than 7,000 attacks. ISIL is the organization with most kills over 35,000. So these are the insights. So we have completed this project. Thank you guys. Bye.